So here we go with the Resident Evil main game tier list. So the first part is going to be what I think the games are, like as a reviewer, like what I think, how good the games actually are, without like my bias. And then the second part will be my list and my personal top five, or ranking all the games. I guess it'd be nine. So yeah, like I said, first part is the critical review. After that will be my own opinions, and then we'll do a little section of which I think you should play the games nowadays, how you should play if you pick the games up today. So yeah, here we go. One thing I want to say though is thank everyone who watched my RE4 playthrough. It's one of the most viewed videos on my channel at this point. I greatly appreciate it. I love that video. I love the thumbnail for it. So I just want to thank you guys for that. And in terms of this type of video, I would like to keep doing this type of video, with several different type of games or different franchises of games. There's still one that I'm gonna do again soon, with Dark Souls. Spoiler. So yeah, and there's something else I want to do. So anyway, I would like to keep this as kind of like a mainstay on the channel, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Resident Evil's hot right now. I've played all of these games, so I think this is a good time to get my thoughts out there and put it in a list. So we'll go in order here. Resident Evil is the only game on this list that I have not finished. I couldn't find the HD, unless I'm blind and the HD is in here somewhere. I just can't find the HD version of this, but this is what it might be that one. But either way, we're putting that in not finished. And I also want to be clear on one thing. I doubt any games are going to be in trash. Only because every single Resident Evil game is a good game. They're all at least good. None of them are bad games to play. One is debatable that we'll get to later, but I don't think any of them are bad games. It's just the fact that compared to the other Resident Evil games, they can be trash. So if anything is in trash, which we'll see, if anything is in there, don't think that the game as a whole is just trash. It's compared to the rest of these games. So, RE2. I think RE2 can be in the top five. So like I said, we're going based off remakes because these are the ones that I have played, and it's 2026. A lot of people aren't going back to play RE2 Classic or RE3 Classic unless they've played the games before, they have an emulator or an older gen console. But for the most part, people are just going to be playing the remakes, especially now if anybody wants to pick it up. So that's how we're going to rank them. So yeah, I think RE2 can be in the top five. I think it's a great game. There's a lot of really good stuff about it. Mr. X Nemesis is cool. I'm actually currently playing this with my girlfriend, and she's never played RE2 Remake, so she's having fun. And seeing her go through it and playing a little bit of it again for myself, it's a lot of fun. It's more fun than I remember. I mean, there's still portions of it that I don't really enjoy, but just being in the RPD building, classic, going into the basement, Mr. X and all that stuff, it still feels good, and it doesn't feel like outdated or like compared to the rest of the remakes that we're going to get to, like it just isn't as good as the modern games. RE2 Remake is still a really good game. So now RE3, we're going to throw it in great. Once we get all of these games in the tier list, we'll see where they go, but RE3 Remake, I think, is a great game. I don't think it's as good as RE2 Remake, and we'll talk about the other remakes in a moment, but I just don't think it's as good as RE2. However, I do think RE3 is still a really good game compared to some, and I also do think the original, I know a lot of people are fans of the original RE3. I never played original RE3, so I can't talk about it, but I know a lot of people are very high on it, so that might influence your opinion. But just for me, RE3 Remake, I think, is below 2, but I don't think it'll be in the top 5, but we're gonna see where other things get placed. Okay, so now RE4 Classic. Okay, so RE4 Classic, we're gonna go above RE3. These will be in order, by the way. I don't know if it's top 5, and we'll get to why in a moment. But yeah, RE4, one of the best Resident Evil games, if not the best Resident Evil game. On top of that, one of the best games ever made. There's no argument. There's no need to keep talking about it. The infected there, I forgot to say their name with the G. They're great. The way that they yell at you, the Spanish, the shit talk, even the castle guys, the cultists, if you want to call them that, like the people in the red and the black, like that game's Infected is great, Leon is great, Luis so memorable and great, Big Cheese, you know what I mean? Like the game is just full with memorable moments, and I don't think anyone's gonna debate that. Like I said, just did my playthrough of RE4. Go check that out. I appreciate it. Okay, so now we have the remake. Now, keep in mind, this is what I think, the world or the world would look at these games, or critically what these games are, not my own opinion. Well, it is my own opinion, but you understand what I'm saying. I'm trying to be unbiased and not put my favorite games where I think they are. So if I'm going to be unbiased, RE4 Remake I think is better than the original in terms of the game as a whole and not my own opinion on it. And what I mean by that is in today's age, playing RE4 Remake, and RE4 Remake, don't get me wrong, is a great game. Even if this game, I mean, it wouldn't have been able to, but if this game came out like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, like RE4 Remake is a great game, even on its own. But playing today, if you picked up the game today, most people are going to want to play the remake over the original. Now, like I said, my own opinion is different, which we'll get to in the second part of this video, but I really do believe that RE4 Remake is better. The castle section looks a lot better. I mean, every section looks a lot better. I think the first half of the game, like the first town up leading to the monster fight in the lake, I think everything before that in the original is probably objectively better than the remake, but I do think the remakes, everything after that, Castle, Krauser, I can't really remember too well right now, but everything after around the lake monster, I think in remake is fantastic. I think it's probably better than the original, but yeah, like I said, if you're gonna play the games nowadays, you're gonna want to play the remake, and the remake is great. Do not get me wrong; it is great on its own, and it's definitely a top five. I just don't want to put both RE4s in the top five. I feel like that's a little overkill. And I almost forgot. I do think RE4 remake is better than RE2 remake. As a remake, probably RE2 because RE4 still is a good game to play now, classic. RE2 remake is super old. It looks way different. You know what I mean? So probably as like a remake, RE2 is better because the game that they remade is so outdated compared to RE4, but just as a game in general, which is how we're ranking it, RE4 in my opinion is a better game than RE2. Okay, so RE5. In my unbiased opinion, I think RE5 is average to good. Now, stay tuned until we're done with the tier list. If you want, you can skip. If you don't want to hear my thoughts, that's fine. But we're going to rearrange some of this once all the games are in the tier list. But for right now, I'm feeling RE5 in average. I think RE5 is very fun when you play with friends. I actually played this recently with one of my best friends. Shout out to him. We played this well, 2025, but I don't think it's been a full year, like maybe like 6 months ago or something. We played this game not that long ago and we had fun. It was bad fun, Chris punching boulders and shit, the classic. The Wesker fight at the end was not that fun, I'll say that. The Wesker fight at the end was ridiculous. But my point is, though, playing this game solo, it might be in trash. Like, playing this game solo is not that fun. But playing this game with a co-op, with a friend, is a blast, in my opinion. Doesn't matter what character you get, you'll still have fun stuff to do. And I think it's great to play with a friend. So yeah, like I said, we might rearrange these when everything gets in the tier list, but for now, like, I think RE5 belongs in good to average. I don't think it's less than that. If you're playing with a friend, I think it could be good, which is, I think, how the game's meant to be played. But like I said, I want to get everything in here before we change it. So, RE6 is next. So when we get to my personal opinion on the game, we'll definitely change some stuff. So because I'm thinking about this, and I really don't think, as much as I want to do it for views, as much as I don't think that any of the Resident Evil games are overall trash, we're gonna do this. It, like, RE6, don't get me wrong, in my opinion, spoiler alert, is the weakest Resident Evil in my opinion. I don't think it's a trash game. The game is pretty bad, but again, I think it's part of its disdain with people is also because it's a Resident Evil game. And you just went from the best Resident Evil RE4 to a good but mediocre Resident Evil RE5, and then you go to one of the worst things that they've ever created. But like I said, I really don't think as a video game entirely that RE6 is just complete trash and you should never play it. It's still Resident Evil. I played it with a friend. It was still fun to play with a friend. Solo, it might be arguable for trash, but I think playing with a friend RE6, I don't want to just throw it in trash in terms of how it is as a video game. If this was like just a Resident Evil tier list, then this would be at the complete bottom without question. You know what I mean? But we're also rating these games as video games and not just okay, it's Resident Evil, what games go where. You know what I mean? In my personal opinion, my biased opinion, which we'll get to in a few minutes, then we can change this up a little bit and we can talk about what I think is actually trash. But like I said, and we can talk about them in terms of how they relate to each other. But just as a video game, I don't think RE6 is like one of the worst video games ever made. It just happens to be one of the worst Resident Evil video games ever made. So, 7, Biohazard. This one is going to be a little controversial. I think it's better than 5. I do. I really do. Don't get me wrong. There's a section of this game which I think kind of it doesn't ruin the entire game, but kind of puts a bad taste in people's mouth compared to like the start of the game, which everybody loves for the most part. But I would consider putting this in great, but for now we're just going to leave it in good, and I do think it's better than 5 as a game. I don't know if it's better than 3. We'll have to see how the rest of the list goes. Village. Okay, so now what I kind of want to do is I think it's time to make some changes. I think we put 8 in good, and I think we move Biohazard up to great. I think this looks a little bit better. I'm not going to put it in front of 3 nor 4, but we're here to talk about Village, and I think Village is a good game to average. Village definitely felt like, for some reason to me, it definitely felt like more of a Mickey Mouse version of 7. Like, it just felt more kind of like, not for kids, because it's not for kids, but it just felt more like not as gruesome or not as scary as 7 did. And don't get me wrong, all Resident Evil games are horror genre, but 7 and 8 are really what started the, okay, this is supposed to be first-person scary game. Don't get me wrong, it's action, you're shooting, but this is going to be, scary shit happening, jump scares, stuff like that. And I just think 8 does a bad job compared to 7. So yeah, I think 8 as a game is one of the worst Resident Evils, but I don't think it's a bad game. In general, I think it just gets bad rep because compared to the other Resident Evils, it just doesn't stand up to them. But it is definitely a good game. Okay, now what you've all been waiting for, RE9. Honestly, I think it's here. In my opinion, unbiased, I do think that the game would either be here or maybe right under RE3. I think these games can go hand in hand. But I do think that Requiem, without my bias, is better than the rest of these games. Except for 1, because I haven't finished it yet. But I do, like I said, compared to these other ones, I do think RE9 is up there. Now let's put them in order very quickly. So, this is what I think the top 5 Resident Evils are without bias. I think Remake for 4 is the best Resident Evil game. I think 2, you can argue, is number 2. I think Requiem... Listen, when I stream this game, the first time I love it. Do I think the replayability isn't as good? Do I think people in 5 years are going to be like, hey, this is still one of the best Resident Evils? Probably not. But I think right now, after just playing it, playing like 2 or 3 different playthroughs, streaming it, people coming into my stream saying it's their favorite Resident Evils, I think it can go up here. But like I said, though, I think these two are kind of interchangeable. So don't take for what I'm saying as, this has to be number 3. I think it can be 3 or 4 or maybe 5. Honestly, I think the last 3 are all kind of interchangeable. But I think RE4 could probably go like here. but I don't want to have both RE4s back to back. You know what I mean? I just don't really want to do that. So we're gonna put it at the back, but I do think RE4 is probably better than at least RE3 remake. But like I said, I don't want to put them back to back. I feel like that's too much. RE4 is just a great game. So yeah, remake to Requiem, but like I said, these two are kind of interchangeable. 4 original, and I think RE7 is right out of the top 5. And then the rest of it, of course, I do think RE6 is the worst one, and Villages takes that place about right there. So sorry for the long run time, but now let's get into my opinion, my bias. Instead of going through it one by one, this is just a list for me. Without question, without a shadow of a doubt, RE7 is my favorite Resident Evil ever made. The reason why it's so special to me is because do I think it's the best Resident Evil? No. But when I look at it, when I first played RE7, and it's around the time where it first came out, I didn't play a lot of horror games. I was into more multiplayer games and like God of War single player games, like just not horror games like that. And when I first played RE7, even the demo for it, I was terrified and I hated playing scary games. And I was so scared going through that mansion, seeing Mia. I still have memorable jump scares and times I remember jumping during the first half of RE7. But the reason why this game is so important to me is because it is the first horror action game, whatever you want to call it, but horror game that I played where after I beat it the first time, I went right back in on the hardest difficulty in 100% of the game. I've never done that with any game before that point. I've gone and replayed games, but never like, okay, I have to beat this on the hardest difficulty, get the platinum trophy, as well as, a horror game, let alone. So yeah, RE7 for me. I played this game. I've done at least like 5 to 6 playthroughs. I love RE7. It's been a while. I might make a video on it and go back to it, but I love this game. It's my favorite Resident Evil ever made. I just got done with RE4 Classic. Now, this might be a little bit of bias because before I played this game, RE4 Remake was my number 2, for sure, without question. But I think after playing the original, honestly, I think I like the original more. No, I'm not trying to be different or be or be like the old people, whatever you want to call it, or older people that played this first and love this game more. I just feel like this game has more life, more uniqueness, and like it just feels alive. I just enjoyed the remake. I mean, sorry, I enjoyed the original so much, especially the villains like Salazar and even Big Cheese. I don't know why, even though Big Cheese in RE4, he's got the drip in remake. He's got the drip, but in classic edition, like I just love that the way that the characters feel. I prefer Ada in the classic edition, which I didn't have a problem with Ada in remake. I know people do. I didn't care for it that much, but I definitely like the way she looks in the classic. So yeah, for me, I just like RE4 classic better. 2005. I enjoyed this game a little bit more than RE4 remake, but like I said, RE4 remake is one of the best Resident Evil games ever made. I think it is the best Resident Evil game ever made. It is one of my favorites. It is great. The replayability, going back in, getting the Chicago's typewriter, everything about RE4 remake is fantastic. You cannot go wrong with RE4. It's great. And right next to that, me personally, have Requiem. So this is recency bias. Like I said, I'm going to have to go back and replay the game in like a few months or a year, and we'll see where I place it. But right now, I have Requiem here because it literally has both elements of my 2 favorite Resident Evil games into one game. Leon action sequences are straight up RE4, and the first person horror is the originator RE7. So both of these games meshed into one video game is Requiem. So it has to go there for me right now, like I said, because it is just 2 of my favorite video games blended into one game. There are parts of every single one of these games that I don't look forward to. RE7 the boat, RE4 monster, as well, or the lake monster, as well as the island. Nobody likes the island. And Requiem, I hate Raccoon City. It's just so dead and it drives me insane. I honestly like the lab part more than the bomb part and the Raccoon City part of RE9. I just don't like it. It looks bad. So I do have complaints about these games, but like I said, Requiem, it's got to go there. And then here's RE2. I love RE2. It was a tough choice for me to do that or this. to go like this. This was my two options. But I think because I've played RE5 so recently that, like, it might have been recency bias, but RE2 is probably up there for me. It is the first Resident Evil game that I played uh well, when they started doing remakes, because it was the first one, but it's the game that was like really made me like, okay, I can start playing Resident Evil again. Like this is a lot of fun for me. Because, like I said before, then I was kind of playing multiplayer games and like Minecraft and other single player games, God of War. I wasn't really playing like horror or just Resident Evil games like that. So RE2 is really what put me back in and made me fall in love with the franchise. Because, like I said, RE7 was the game that really made me fall in love in one of my favorite games ever. But RE2 Remake was after that, and what really made me be like, okay, they're remaking the older games now. I can really get into and love the Resident Evil franchise. So we'll go through the rest of these kind of quick. RE5, fantastic. I think RE5, with a friend, let's make that clear. Playing with somebody, I had a lot of fun. We laughed throughout pretty much the entire game. It was a blast. I still have clips from it that I might put in the video here, but I really do enjoy RE5 with a friend, especially. It was great to me and my friend. There were bad moments in it, but the whole time we are laughing, having a good time. There's some parts like the ending boss fight, like the puzzles with the statues that isn't as fun, where one person has to like shoot Wesker and the other person has to do the puzzle. I don't really remember, but I remember certain things that just weren't that fun. But RE5 with a friend, in my opinion, is above the rest of the list to me. So, I mean, we could probably put this here, but just for purposes, let's just roll with this. RE8, I don't hate it like the rest of the community does, but I can very well acknowledge that there are some parts of this game that just aren't good and aren't fun. I don't like the enemy types. Lady Dimitrescu is cool for like the first time you see her, and then after that, it's kind of like, all right, it's just a big lady. Her daughters are pretty cool when they're chasing around the castle, but they can be pretty annoying. I can't remember the fat guy's name. I think it's Duke. If it is Duke, we love Duke. I really enjoyed that guy's character. He's always fun. I like Ethan, not only because RE7, but some of RE8, him and Mia, like, I actually like their story. So, Ethan is one of my favorite protagonists outside of maybe Leon, or Ethan might be my favorite. But the ending where, like, Chris comes in and you play as Chris, RE8 has its problems, I'm aware, but compared to the rest of these, I just like RE8 more because it's more my style. First person kind of horror. Again, this one is definitely Mickey Mouse compared to RE9 and RE7, but it is still the first person horror that I fell in love with. Okay, RE3. Didn't really like the remake. It again, none of these games are bad outside of this one here, but none of these games are bad. Resident Evil 3 can switch with this, but RE3 is a good game. I just didn't enjoy it as much as the other games on this list. I just didn't. Now, I'm going to have to replay this. I do plan on replaying all of the games here. So right now I'm on RE2, and probably soon after that will be RE3. So I have to replay it and really like remember and get my opinions on it. But as of right now, I played this not that long ago. RE3, I like 8 more. And now lastly, we have RE6. RE6, in my opinion, is fucking trash. I played it with a friend. I couldn't stand to finish the game. We were doing, I think it was Leon and Jill. It says that it's Helena or Helena. I really don't remember who it is. I just remember it's you. Leon has a partner, and there's multiple stories. Point is, though, we couldn't even get past Leon's part. Like, we got to a point, we died, I think, against Wesker at some point during the story, and we just got off the game. The next time we got back on, we were, no joke, like an hour behind in progress. For whatever reason, the last save or the last checkpoint was an hour before where we stopped, and that just totally killed the game. And by killed the game, I mean I was pretty much done with the game before, but I wanted to finish at least Leon's story. I was not having that much fun. However, that setback really, put us back. And unfortunately, like these other games on the list, like RE7 and RE9 and RE4, some of these games are like the first in the Resident Evil series to do things, and they're some of the best. RE6 introduces new mechanics and a new gameplay, and fails. It just fails compared to the rest of them. So in my opinion, RE6 is trash. I hate it. I don't ever want to go back and play this game unless it's like for a stream or a funny YouTube video for me to suffer, but I'll never go back and play this game on my own accord. I just won't. So yeah, this is my opinion. These are my favorite Resident Evil games. And very quickly before the video ends, I know it's been long, we're going to quickly do how I would play them today. So, in my opinion, this is how I would play it nowadays. Pretty much the order that they came out in for the most part. I wouldn't start with RE4, which I know a lot of people would want to. You can do it this way and start with RE4 Remake. However, I think you're going to get spoiled pretty fast. I think playing RE2 and RE3, or even if you don't want to do RE3, which you don't have to, but I recommend it, you can do RE2 into RE4. Like I said, I just wouldn't play RE4 right off the bat because you're going to play one of the best games and get pretty spoiled right away. So like I said, I would do RE2, then RE3, but you can do RE2, then RE4, but RE4 should be in the first 3 games that you end up playing. Then I would do these in order. As much as I want to say do this, right? As much as I want to say do this, I just don't think leaving out Village is like, you should finish Ethan's story. You know what I mean? But if you're only interested in playing like the best Resident Evil games, then you can do 7 into 9, but I would do 7, 8 into 9. But like I said, you can do 7, 9, 8. And the reason why I think playing this at the end of all of these is so important is because back to back, if you do RE4 then RE7, you're getting what RE9 is. So when you get to RE9, you're like, oh my god, I just played these 2 games and, you know, this is the perfect blend between RE4 and RE7. Then from RE9, I would go back to older games. I would do RE4 Classic because it's still one of the greatest games ever. Then I would do RE5 with a friend. If you don't have a friend to play with, then you can skip RE5, honestly, and just play the original Resident Evil. But I do recommend playing RE5. And then, of course, I would just throw this away. There's no reason to play RE6 in my opinion. Fuck that game. If you want to play all of the games, make sure you play RE6 with a friend and play it last. But all the other games you can pretty much just go run into. Like I said, RE5 you can skip, but I recommend playing with a friend. I wouldn't play it solo, but it's not like RE6 where it's pretty much garbage without a friend. You can still play RE5. So yeah, anyway, that was the full tier list. Sorry for the long run time. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And yeah, what are your thoughts? What is your top 5 Resident Evil games, or even top 3? What do you think about my list? And again, the second half is my opinion. I don't want to argue with what was better or worse. The first half you guys can argue with. The second half is purely my opinion. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your top 5 or top 3 in the comments. Also, check out my RE4 playthrough. I also uploaded an RE1 video. So yeah, if you want to see Resident Evil videos, they're on my channel, and please go check them out. Thank you guys, and have a good day.